The pass review serves two functions for the superintendent. It dismisses the cadets and at the same time provides an opportunity to inspect the state of discipline and training. As the cadets pass and review before the reviewing party, members of each unit will turn their head and eyes and salute on the command, "Eyes right." The marches that will be played as the cadets pass and review are French National Defilé, the official West Point March, Sesquicentennial March, composed by William Rydberg, USMA class of 1952, and the Army goes rolling along.
We'll try to grab an alarm or something when this wraps up.
Oh,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, so you don't want to go. Do you want to go? All right. Ken, do you want to go?
Where?
To the end?
Okay.
Or are you going to stay?
I'll go down.
Here? And so do you want to stay just because we don't have any space there? So you can get a little bit of it. And we go down.
Okay.
All right? You can leave your case if you want to. It's fine.
The United States Military Academy Band is under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Todd Addison with the drum major Sergeant First Class Nathan Eby. The first regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Tyler Anderson from Magnolia, Texas. The regimental command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Michelle Galanca from Cape Hayes, Florida. The First Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Andrew King from Queens Village, New York. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Sean Dean from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Lance Baggett, Chicago, Illinois. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Dan Questoria from Akron, Ohio.
We got to the first one once so we can figure out if we're in the right spot. How come the guy isn't down here?
Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Bryce Grijalva Hilbert from Los Gatos, California. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Paul Min from Lacey, Washington. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Joseph Miller from Auburn, Washington. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Mark Curley from Killeen, Texas. The second battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain John Knievel from Midland, Michigan. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Stephen Spratt from Marion, North Carolina. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Clayton Bernice from West Point, New York. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jessica Soto from San Elizario, Texas. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Adam Bungham from Sargent, Minnesota. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant David Stanford from Triangle, Virginia.
Left turn! March!
Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Ryan Colwall from Waldwick, New Jersey. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant B.J. Wallace from Los Angeles, California.
Left turn!
The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Jack Cooley from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Joshua Crafton from Shelbyville, Indiana. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Timothy No Day from Tahunga, California. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Matt Pagura from Queens, New York.
Left turn! March!
Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain William White from Houston, Texas. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Seth Matty from Gilbert, Arizona. The second regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Jonathan Ryder from Mattoon, Illinois. The regimental command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Jonathan Kroc from Gurnee, Illinois. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Jack Baghdadi from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Jack Stockhausen from Hanover County, Virginia. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Hayden Jenkins from Spring, Texas. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jacob Whitpolly from Sharon, Massachusetts.
Left turn, march.
Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain John Schumar from Prince George, Virginia. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Rachel Kim from New City, New York.
March.
Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Michael Clarion from Wailuku, Hawaii. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Keeper Jordan from Tampa, Florida.
Left turn, march.
The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Stephen Moosholt from Quincy, Illinois. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Sarah Galloway from Bentonville, Arkansas.
March.
Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Alex Weatherhead from Palmetto, Florida. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Michelle Lopez from Chicago, Illinois.
Left turn.
Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Aaron Bonner from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jason Brown from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Left turn.
Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Joshua Reed from Denver, Colorado. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Mitchell Ware from Joplin, Missouri. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain William Scott from Dallas, Texas. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Aaron Smith from Boca Raton, Florida. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Austin Demuse from Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Theo Lee from Seoul, Korea.
March.
Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Christian Natil from Tampa, Florida. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Bob Zhu from Fairfax, Virginia. Since the days of the American Revolution, flag bearers have been an important element in ceremonies. At the center of today's formation and bearing the national colors, the United States Corps of Cadets Color Guard, led by Cadet Color Sergeant Joseph Wilkerson from Goodyear, Arizona.
The first guy. Make the turn quickly. Come on, turn.
The 3rd Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Mark McGinnis from Detroit, Michigan. The regimental command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Jed DePalma from Highland Falls, New York. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain John Rogers from Danville, Illinois. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Lars Robinson from Juneau, Alaska. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Joseph Whitley from Havelock, North Carolina. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Linda Erickson from Plymouth, Michigan. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain John Formica from Chesapeake, Virginia. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Niccolo Iacovelli from Bristol, Connecticut.
Well, I talked to you.
Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Karina Gonzalez from Temecula, California. The 1st sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant David Cho from Tuckahoe, New York.
Left turn, march.
The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain David Boyd from Cary, North Carolina. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Joseph Carroll from Fort Worth, Texas.
March. Go, make the turn quickly.
Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Christina Maripico from Kapa'a, Hawaii. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Nicole Perry from Cortland Manor, New York.
Left turn, march!
Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Matthew McKee from Overland Park, Kansas. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Michael Kinney from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Marvin Lewis from Columbus, Georgia. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Robert Jenkins from Los Angeles, California.
Left turn, march!
The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Anderson Sullivan from Ada, Michigan. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Lisa DeLacy from Malden, Massachusetts. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Christian Merrick from Fresno, California. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Daniel Sweet from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Left turn, march!
Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Catherine King from Walton Beach, Florida. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Brandon Yarnovich from West Mifflin, Pennsylvania.
Left turn, march!
The 4th Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Madison Crum from Boca Raton, Florida. The regimental command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Eric Zanger from Farmington, Utah. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Lincoln Connell from Norwood, Missouri. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Daniel Gaynor from Seattle, Washington. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Nakeem Mirzada from Kabul, Afghanistan. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Michael Clark from Houston, Texas. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Ori Madden from Dry Ridge, Kentucky. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Brent Stout from Random Lake, Wisconsin. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Jonah Mills from Gadsden, Alabama. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Thomas Joyner from Cameron, North Carolina. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Cameron Voigt from Barrington, Rhode Island. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Connor McCarty from North Smithfield, Rhode Island. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Travis Moody from Vero Beach, Florida. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Ellis Valdez from Waterford, California.
Left turn, march!
Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Zachary Bravore from Las Vegas, Nevada. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Stephen Johnson from Newburgh, New York.
Left turn, march!
Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Leo Costa from Fairfax, Virginia. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Andrew Matos from Lithia, Florida.
Left turn, march! Left turn, march!
The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Terrence Thomas from Douglas County, Georgia. Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Kyle Manning from New Orleans, Louisiana. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Nicholas Williams from South Orange, New Jersey. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Savannah Baker from Marietta, Georgia. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Alexander from Attleboro, Massachusetts. The first sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Jacob Minyard from San Diego, California. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Army song, The Army Goes Rolling Along. Please feel free to sing along as they are played. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's review. We would like to remind everyone to please stay off the plane as you exit the parade grounds. Thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
That's great. It's so impressive to see the kids marching like that.
Yeah.
I guess they take it for granted, but it's impressive.